Hello everybody, Newfing11 here. In previous videos I conquered all of Act 1, Act 2, as well as Violence and Fraud, all with alternate weapons and fists only. As somebody who's bad at ULTRAKILL, that was quite a challenge for me to do. Now it's time to put a rest to this challenge by completing some of the hardest levels ULTRAKILL has to offer, the Prime Sanctums. In this video, we will be attempting to beat both P-1 and P-2 with our trusty alternate weapons, and we'll see how that goes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Diving straight into P-1, our first goal is to make it to the Flesh Prison as fast as possible. Once we've reached the Fleshy Abomination, it's time to fight. Unfortunately though, I'm bad at the game, so I don't deal very much of the Flesh Prison's health before we end up getting freaking exploded. Our second go-round of this fight goes much better though, and we manage to take out a majority of the minions summoned by the big freaking octahedron, allowing us to focus more of our firepower towards the boss itself. We managed to do an insane amount of damage, nearly one-cycling the boss before we would deal with the remainder of its health, spawning in the big man himself, Minos Prime.
Alright, now we just have to pull this off. Is it possible for me to use saw traps properly?
Probably not, but the fight begins anyways. Minos immediately launches a flurry of attacks at us, all of which we do our best to avoid. Failing to dodge any of Minos' attacks will result in decreased health and could even cause us to... You said it, Minos Prime. I'm going to be honest, old Minos never really put me in any real danger. My health only dropped to below half a couple of times throughout this fight, and thanks to our saw traps, the whole battle didn't even last a minute. What's the takeaway from this fight? I'm bad at Flesh Prison. That's all.
Yes! Suck my Mario wiener. It is possible. I knew it was possible. I knew it all along. All I had to do was have faith in myself, and holy frick, I have been trying to do that for hours.
Moving on from whatever the heck that was, it's now time for P-2. Heading into the level, the first thing we do is freaking blow ourselves up. For anyone who is familiar with my channel, you'll know that I love explosions in ULTRAKILL, hence why the second thing we do is blow up a bunch of funny stone men. After the funny stone men are dealt with, a ferryman spawns in along with some unreachable virtues and they begin attacking us. The ferryman goes down fairly easily, taking only a parry and a few revolver shots, which then allows us to take out the virtues that were assaulting us. Heading into the second encounter of the level, we're faced with an idled mind flayer, a swords machine, 2 sentries, and a bunch of schisms. The schisms all go down easily, and so does the swords machine, leaving us with just the sentries to deal with. Once the sentries are dead, we head into a tunnel with 2 street cleaners and a funny stone man. They all die. Now it's time for everybody's favorite room, the room with yet another idled mind flayer and 2 swords machines, along with the sentry, just for funsies. We take out the sentry, then turn our focus onto the mind flayers because they're just so beautiful. Wait, no, we focus on the swords machines because game progression needs to be made. There will be time to drool over the mind flayer later when we're not fighting for our lives. We dunk on one swords machine and the mind flayers accidentally kill the other one. Then 2 virtues and 2 Maurices spawn in and begin attacking. We take out the Maurices first and then turn our attention to the virtues, but unfortunately end up dying from skill issue. One retry later and we're back where we were, taking out a Maurice before we decide that the virtues are a higher priority, leading us to take them out before we deal with the other Maurice. Once those foul creatures are dealt with, we deal with the idols that were protecting the mind flayers, then turn our attention to the mind flayers themselves. We regretfully take out the hot machines, then move on with heavy hearts. But there's game progression to be made, and I forgot the freaking blue skull. One blue skull later, and we find ourselves face to face with 2 Sisyphean erectionists, one of which we scrongle right off the bat by dropping in the blood river thingy that's in the arena. The remaining erectionists we duel honorably. And by that I mean we let a saw trap do most of the work. Once the remaining Sisyphean erectionist is dead, we get a delightful shower of blood as a reward for all our hard work and the ability to move on to the next room. The first part of this room contains some virtues, which we explode, and jackhammer, some Maurices, which we jackhammer and shoot, and a sentry, which we jackhammer. A lot of jackhammering going on here today, huh, Newfing11? Right, you are Newfing11, you handsome son of a gun. We blow up another Maurice and everything seems to be going fairly well until... Cerberus has escaped containment. Everybody panic. Throw coins at other people. Call your ex. Eat rocks. Bet your life savings at the casino. Advocate for generative AI. Whew. That was a close one. Anyways, we take out the remaining funny stone man and move on to the last room before we fight the big boss man, Sisyphus himself. Entering the large arena, we place down a saw trap and begin fighting, dealing most of our enemy's health thanks to saw blades and conduction. The ones that do survive are quickly taken out by revolver shots, some explosives, and a handful of parries. We're just getting started though, as 4 sentries spawn in along with an idled hideous mass. We use the slab piercer on a coin on the first sentry, then saw blade and punch 2 more before finally beating the crap out of the last one, causing some virtues and funny stone men to spawn in. We take out the idol that was protecting the hideous mass and get to work on the virtues, taking them all out one by one as the remaining enemies stay stuck on the ground, doing frick all. Once the virtues are cleared out, we deal with the hideous mass and the funny stone men before finally taking out another idol and a useless stalker that it was protecting. It's time. We have all but a brief elevator ride down and a few sealed doors to get prepared before we find ourselves face to face with the Flesh Panopticon. We hit the Panopticon with a few full power jackhammer hits to assert our dominance, then immediately panic as we realize that our greatest tool for getting out of range of the infinite hell mortars glitch that the giant freaking cube uses is gone. It all works out in the end though, as our jackhammers were charged fairly quickly, allowing us to keep mostly out of range of its attacks. From there, Sisyphus Prime breaks out, as he tends to do, then begins his monologue. We use that time to set up a saw trap, allowing us to deal about a quarter of his health right off the bat, and the fight begins. Sisyphus Prime begins attacking and we begin parrying, keeping our eyes peeled for any openings to deal damage as we want to spend as little time in this fight as possible. Much like the Prime Soul before him, Sisyphus will kill you if you don't avoid his attacks, so we have to play carefully while also dealing as much damage as possible. We want to keep this fight short and sweet. As the more observant among you all might notice, Sisyphus is below half health, meaning that he will now attack non-stop, leaving us with no time to gather our bearings if we get disoriented. All it would take is one mistake to end the whole run, and possibly my monitor, as there's no telling the unspeakable rage that would fall if I had to go through this level again. However, things continue to go our way, and we manage to keep our health and style up while Sisyphus's health drops. We fight harder than we've ever fought before, keeping up with the boss by some miracles. We jackhammer as though our real lives depend on it, until finally, it happens.
Holy frick, I did it! Alt weapons only, baby. I am the GOAT at alt weapons only. Woo!
With the completion of P-2, this is not the end of the video. While I was avoiding editing, I also decided to try and beat E-0 and E-1 just for funsies. I hope you're ready for a perfectly calm and not at all unhinged experience, because that is definitely what you're going to get. Enjoy. Heading into 0-E, I immediately find myself in a tiny room with a bunch of funny stone men. Who doesn't love that? Me, that's who. After trying to coin punch with the Knuckle Blaster, we get our act together and deal with the funny stone men who are currently jumping us, then proceed to blow up some Maurices and a Gutterman. I love explosions. Entering the next room, the first thing we do is blow up a gutter tank, then try to set up a saw trap on a Virtue for some unknown reason. Once the Virtue is out of the way, we teach the gutter tank a Smithin' lesson, then jackhammer a swords machine so hard it freaking dies. We then attempt to whiplash a landmine, which sadly doesn't work, but that's probably for the best. After that though, we engage in some more explosive buffoonery, blowing up 2 Maurices before destroying a sentry. We set up a saw trap to take care of the weaker enemies before turning our attention to the Virtue that we ignored for too long, destroying it too. With that room cleared, it's time to get jumped by the street cleaner gang, which we promptly explode and punch to death. Now it's time for everybody's favorite room, the tiny room where a Maurice constantly shoots at you while you fight other crap. We sawblade the heck out of the soldiers that spawn, then go on to deal with some schisms and a funny stone man while also trying to parry the invulnerable Maurice for health and damage avoidance. After that, a swords machine comes busting through the wall and begins attacking us, though we escape through the hole in the wall and destroy the idol that was protecting the Maurice, which results in it dying somehow. From there, we deal with the swords machine and head into the next room, dealing with some drones before moving on to the second Maurice-themed room of the level. Much like the last room that had multiple Maurices in it, reflecting their projectile vomit via explosions is the answer to the problem. After the Great Maurice Occur of 2026, some stalkers and a gutter tank show up, and many explosions ensue, until eventually everything is dead except for me. From there, we claim the Red Skull, then go and put it in its proper place. Heading back to the fork in the path, we take the other door this time and begin fighting. We jackhammer the beans out of a Virtue and then blow up some more Maurices before finally jackhammering a mannequin and financially compensating a street cleaner for the loss of its friends. After our kind actions towards the street cleaner, we decide that we haven't done enough harm in the world today, leading us to parry and revolver some mannequins. Then we dunk on the gutter tank with a jackhammer and proceed to get jumped by a swords machine that tries to make us taste the rainbow outline of its sword, and because we apparently chose the wrong political party today, we die since we don't want anything to do with the rainbow.
Ah, boners and cheese.
I don't know what to say to that. Anyways, We die again, this time due to our level of explosives, resulting in us getting mildly upset.
I just blew myself up. I just got blown, guys, and it wasn't very good.
Thanks! After those interesting words from yours truly, we speed through the level, then proceed to die in the invincible Maurice room due to my own stupidity.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't break the idol. Holy frick.
Now that that death is out of the way, we can move on and finally manage to die again. Okay.
Okay, there's no way that did frickin' 33 damage. Unless I didn't have that much health. It looked like I had more health than that, okay?
Moving on from that, we once again find ourselves facing the Radiant Swords machine, and we tell it that we've realized the error of our ways and are now an ally and a safe space for all. We also tell them that we love them regardless of their beliefs, sexuality, or anything else. This genuine acceptance moves the Swords machine so much that it dies, and we are able to move on once more. We continue our genuine acceptance of the truly Radiant no longer enemies, then explode and dunk on a few soldiers. After that, we grab the blue skull and put it in its proper place, at which point the level starts to turn up the heat. Not just because things are about to get a lot more difficult, but also because we're going to experience biblically accurate hell. Suffice to say, it's getting hot in here, and not just because I'm packing heat. After accidentally tabbing out, we take out the remaining Swords machine and take care of a few drones in the nicest way possible, before some schisms spawn in and get the revolver and jackhammer treatment.
Uh-oh. Heat damage.
Uh-oh, heat damage is right, and it's only going to get worse because everything's on fire all the time constantly. Up next on my going to love and accept list is 2 Rainbow Maurices and a few soldiers. I'm going to be so real with you, I don't know how in the heck I survived this encounter. The charging speed of the Maurice's malicious beam was so fast that they were practically rapid-firing explosions at me, but we make it anyways. Moving on from that though, we find ourselves face to face with a Mind Flayer that's rather hot, take that as you will. Unfortunately, we don't have time to chat with the Mind Flayer as game progression needs to be made and we are taking heat damage again.
Oh frick, oh frick, oh frick, oh frick. Ah!
After showing the Mind Flayer our very manly battle cry, we are allowed to live and we get to move on to the next part of this fiery hellscape. In the next room, we explode and saw blade our way through the various enemies, then teach a virtue what ricochet means by bouncing a laser through it multiple times. We blow up the remaining virtue and move on to a very fun room that's full of fun things. In case it wasn't obvious, that was a bigger lie than when I say I'm going to pay alimony, because a Gutterman, 2 missile launchers, and 2 virtues spawn in. Once the Gutterman and the virtues are out of the way, 4 freaking mortar launchers spawn in and begin firing at us, which is truly the epitome of fun. Once those fun cretins are out of the way, we take a quick dip in the water to gain our heat resistance back, then we're right back into the action. We dish out more love and acceptance to some rainbow enemies, then jackhammer a virtue and politely blow up some filth after making sure they're okay with it. Finally, things start to calm down a bit. Our heat resistance finally stops draining and we begin to head to the exit. But wait, we're stopped by 2 Rainbow Funny Stone men. These aren't the kind-hearted and genuinely good Rainbow Funny Stone men though, they're the kind that do horrible things to other people and try to use orientation, identification, and various other things to guilt trip you into feeling bad for them. Don't get me wrong, the majority of these people are great people, but there's still the occasional bad apple that you have to watch out for. Be careful who you trust. Anyways, we combat this rare breed of rat bag with jackhammers, chainsaws, and getting stuck in the wall because why not, slowly whittling the health of these exceptionally tanky jerks down until one is dead. The other one flies off the handle, but we keep calm and eventually take the other Rainbow Funny Stone man down.
Go, 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 go! Yep, I did it. That's right. I'm the frickin' GOAT! I think I just broke my chair. I'll see you later.
Having beaten E-0 and potentially broken my chair in the process of celebrating, it is now time for E-1, which took me multiple hours because E-1 sucks. Enjoy my suffering.
Oh my gosh. I am so tired of this level.
As previously mentioned, I've been at this for hours and I'm thoroughly fed up with this level, so don't be surprised if I say or do something wacky when I inevitably die, because we all know I will. After taking out a swords machine and a few gutter tanks, we find ourselves fighting yet another swords machine, though this one is radiant. Not that its status really changes much, it's still an enemy and it's still trying to kill us, so we kill it, then dunk on a Maurice just for funsies. After that, we deal with 2 mortar launchers, then move on to the next room where we immediately greet and part with a gutter tank, then obliterate 2 street cleaners who were simply trying to clean our streets. No thanks, street cleaners. Go touch someone else. Now that we've successfully told off the street cleaners, it's time to go dunk on another Maurice and beat the heck out of a gutterman, then proceed to do the same to 2 sentient rocket launchers. With everything thoroughly beaten off, we get the pleasure of dealing with 2 schisms and 3 sentries, 2 of which are radiant. We managed to kill 1 radiant sentry and 2 schisms before getting blasted by a sentry and dying because we suck at charge packing.
I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm actually going to lose my mind.
Well on our way to insanity, we make our way back through the level and try that room again, though we see much more success this time around thanks to a saw trap and some coins. Moving on from that room, we find ourselves getting jumped by 2 radiant street cleaners in a tiny hallway, though they don't stand much of a chance. They kinda just get beaten up and we move on. Stepping into a large spacious room, we think, hey, maybe we'll actually have some space to fight for once. I couldn't have been more wrong, as 2 virtues and a mind flare spawn in while the floor slowly opens beneath us into a fairly deadly fan, though we quickly get away by killing the virtues. Once the virtues are gone, some drones spawn in and begin harassing us at the workplace, causing us to fly off the handle and mail them explosives and bullets with same-second delivery. Now that the drones are gone, we can deal with the mind flare, showing off our prowess with the jackhammer. The mind flare is so impressed by our use of the jackhammers that it explodes, leaving us to move on alone once more. Having once again lost the mind flare in favor of game progression, we continue on with heavy hearts, though we promptly forget about our grief when the entire lair begins falling apart just because we picked up a skull. Literally just one. How? No time to ponder that though, because we've got to beat this level. We start by placing a saw trap before jackhammering the life out of a gutterman, letting the other guttermen be taken down by the saw trap. After that, some sentries and Maurices spawn in, and one of the sentries gets owned by a Maurice, allowing us to deal with the Maurices before jackhammering the sentry so hard that it spazzes out of existence.
Bye!
Moving on from that, we head into a passage that's full of deadly fans, then drop into an area that leads us into a room that's definitely not dangerous and bad for our health. We are unsurprisingly jumped by a bunch of mannequins and a gutterman, though we manage to take them all out without too much hassle, prompting us to dunk on the virtue and funny stone man that decided to join in. We then head into a slightly hidden area and enter a secret tunnel that's actually required for you to go through, since there's 2 funny stone men inside that need to be taken out. We take them out and grab a blue skull, then begin the most annoying fight ever. We start things off by immediately messing up the saw trap on the hideous mass and getting exploded, because I'm just so good at this game. Once we get the hideous mass down to about 2/3 of its health, 2 virtues and an idol spawn in. We kill the idol and both of the virtues fairly easily, then begin attacking the hideous mass once more. Once the hideous mass reaches 1/3 of its health, it becomes enraged and yet another idol spawns, along with a mind flare. We break the idol and focus solely on the hideous mass, since that's the biggest threat at the moment. Once the hideous mass is dealt with though, we turn our full attention to the mind flayer. I wrote a song for you, mind flayer. Never mind. Moving on to the next room, we use the Knuckle Blaster to reflect 2 Maurice's projectiles, then jackhammer the remaining Maurice and blow up some stalkers before engaging in mortal combat with a sanded Radiant Swords Machine. We manage to kill the Swords Machine after it does some head-standing shenanigans, then move on to the final room. The end is in sight. This is it. We've been at this level for hours. It's time to be a gamer! Starting off, we place down a saw trap and begin fighting the 2 Swords Machines, Agony and Tundra. We do a ton of damage to Agony and it gets stunned for a few seconds, though it gets back up with as much health as Tundra. Not good. We do some explosive ordnance and some saw trapping to whittle away at the 2 Swords Machines' health, keeping up the assault until they're both dead. After taking a moment to mentally prepare ourselves, we begin the fight with the Radiant Hideous Mass. Utilizing saw traps once more, we drain its health to about half, and then it glitches.
Why is it already enraged?
The hideous mass enraged way before it was supposed to, leaving us in a rather bad position, which is only made worse when we get got by the harpoon of the hideous mass. We manage to break free of it and somehow parry the hideous mass, dropping its health lower and lower until...
What the f was that? Holy shit, I did it though! In your face, Akita!
Oh my gosh, I hate the encores.
Don't leave just yet though, because we still have some funny moments to go through that I only realized right as I thought I was done editing that I forgot to add in. And since I'm not going to go through and completely redo the script for this video, I'm just going to put them in now. Here they are. Enjoy.
Here it goes. Here goes literally everything. Here goes my wife, my kids, my family, everything I ever loved. Shoot! Oh, come on. Seriously, I got caught with a freaking harpoon, a stray harpoon. That makes me so mad. I'm so scared. Get out of here. Freaking cockback try to punch me in the face. Holy frick! I went flying! Oh my gosh. Well, at least we got something funny out of it before I march to my inevitable death. No way! Just before the frickin' electricity popped, too. Oh gosh dang it. Alright, we're trying that again. And we have the mouse in the middle of this. Okay, fuck this.
With the completion of E-1, that just about does it for today. I really do hope you enjoyed this challenge, and if you did, then let me know what other challenges I should attempt to take on. I had a lot of fun doing this challenge when I wasn't wanting to rip my hair out due to the all-consuming anger brought about by my own skill issue. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Until next time.